Hello and welcome back to Truth Salad TV. Today we're going to be talking about how to protect your kids and what's coming after your kids. Right now I kind of feel like it's pretty important, especially since most places have schools shut down, so you are spending a lot of time with your kids and you're kind of worried about what might be coming in the future as far as in schools. So first we have the CDC guidelines for reopening schools. Everyone over the age of 2 wear masks, no sharing supplies, desks 6 feet apart, facing the same way, distance on school buses, sneeze guards, one-way routes and hallways, no communal spaces, no cafeterias, playgrounds. Notice they got rid of all the arts. That's something I found interesting. There is no more music, no more art class, no more gym. No field trips, physical barriers, pre-packaged everything. No field trips, I said that I think already. Same staff, staggered arrival and departure, daily temperature checks, and cleaning all day. Do these kids look happy to you? Because they don't look happy to me. I don't feel like that is good for their development as an educator myself. Here's this video.
Get ready, we are going to take you through what a typical day will look like if you return back to school during COVID-19. Hi kids! Don't be alarmed. This is what we're going to look like when you return back. We have goggles, masks, and gloves. Thanks for staying in your car. Hi Ben, how are you? Good. Make sure we stay 6 feet apart, okay? You ready? You're going to stay there and I'm going to go and open the door, okay? Okay, welcome to school. Don't forget, you have to sanitize your hands before you come into the building. Okay, now a staff member will escort Ben to class. We have some funky designs on the floor. You'll notice lines and you'll notice some arrows. Make sure that you are keeping at least one arrow apart from all of your classmates and your teachers. But don't forget, we're going to teach you all of this when you return back to school. Hi, welcome to a typical classroom. Don't worry, you all have your own spot and all of your own materials that are going to be prepared for when you come back. And also, they're 6 feet apart from your classmates. But don't worry, it's big enough for you to get up and do a jumping jack. Some doors are going to have this sign on it. That's an absolute do not enter. Gym, library, NPR, cafeteria, all are closed. All of our play structures and our swings will have caution tape on it, so that's a no-go zone. That's our video to prepare you to come back to school. Don't forget to talk about it with your parents, but don't worry, we'll all be here to help. Can't wait to see ya!
Clearly that's not normal, and it goes against everything they teach you as far as being an educator. So here's some people doing an extreme. They have a plastic bag over themselves and their child, also wearing a mask and goggles. Is just ridiculous the way that people are going, especially in China. And if you haven't seen some of this stuff, 2 boys dropped dead in China while wearing masks during gym class. Kind of scary that they're making kids wear this even though they know the risks that come along with it. So here's something from America talking about no grandparents and only one parent allowed, no high fives, handshakes, huddles, shower and change at home, and parent watch from the car if kids are doing sports. If they have to stay in the car, why does it have to be one parent only? And here we have in the Washington Times, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer bans travel between 2 residences, saying that in response to the coronavirus, it has to include individuals traveling between 2 residences, except of course if it's a court-ordered child custody. That's the only time apparently where they think it's okay for them to go between houses. The Washington State Department of Health, like I told you kind of a little bit, that Washington State was a little bit crazy. They want you to indoctrinate your own kids by wearing your mask whenever you're doing whatever at home to kind of normalize it and make it okay. Now we have the New Jackson County guidelines in Florida. If you notice the dates on these, some of these are a little bit on the older side now, but the message still stands. So basically it's just saying that, people have to get used to this And if you normalize it at home, it could make it easier so that people can still bond and learn how to bond while wearing a mask. Suggest wearing masks at home for the sake of continuity and repetition. Continuity, my bad. Can't talk, I guess. It's just scary stuff. I don't know how kids, very young kids, are going to learn from this. So this is something I saw on Facebook. So a friend of someone's had a 4-year-old for an appointment, had 3 children, and they were told, hey, why don't you just hang out because we have a robot that's just going around and they'll be able to watch the kids in the car. So despite the appointment needing to be on the 3rd floor of a building and the car in the parking lot, they were like, yeah, the robot can take care of them. I don't know about you, but I don't really trust a robot to take care of my own child. You can, of course, pause this if you want to read it yourself. This is a picture of the robot, specifically that one. But I also found an article talking about robots in San Antonio children's hospitals. What I found interesting about this is that it was, first of all, if you notice the date, it was in February. But then it's talking about how it tells you, pardon me for anyone who gets too close, but further down tells you that if you want to speak to somebody, like if you want to talk to the security guards and everything, that you have to hit a button on this thing. The robot's the first line of defense, blah, 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 potential security threat. Where does it say it? Oh, okay. Here we go. Hospital visitors can speak to human security staff members by pressing a duress button on the robot. Kids are curious and think they're fun. Yep. So normalize it in the kids now so that in the future, when there's robots for literally everything, the kids won't be afraid. It'll just be something us old farts think is weird. And they look like R2-D2. See, predictive programming. All right, so here's a picture of a dentist office where they say that you can allow your child to go inside, but you're not allowed inside. So you could just watch from an iPad from your car. I don't find this appropriate at all. I don't know anyone who's willing to have their kids go to the doctor or a dentist without them there, but in case you were, here you go. Here's another dental place saying that we're asking parents to remain in the car if your child is age 5 or older. Staff will come to your vehicle and escort your child into the building and then be back to your car when the appointment is complete. I do not agree with this. I do not think it's safe. And 5 years old is still, I would still not let my child go in without me at 5. My kid's 7. So here's another one. We're asking parents to remain in the car, blah, 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 blah. But this is actually a pediatrician's office, and I don't have the name anymore for it. It was on Facebook a while ago. But again, age 5 is much too young to be going into a doctor's office alone. And if they're living with the parent anyway, I just don't see what the harm is. All right, so Western Australia passed a COVID-19 Emergency Powers Act that authorizes officers to test and vaccinate children at school and also remove their underwear. So obviously, just first of all, the vaccination part itself, no, you cannot vaccinate my child without my consent. And also, why the heck would you have to take off their underwear, right? So it says it enables the relevant person to be vaccinated right there in plain print. Then it says to remove anything, including underwear, that is relevant, or that the relevant person is wearing if the removal of such a thing is reasonably necessary to enable medical examination. Do you really trust these people? I do not. So no, they cannot. So here's from Oregon, Office of Child Welfare Program. Effective 4/22/20, if a child, oh my gosh, I can't speak. I'll just let you read it. Child can enter substitute care because if their caregiver is infected. Here's from Washington State. More stuff from them, right? Social service specialist, internal use only. They are seeking an employee in King something something counties to volunteer to supervise and support children in youth emergency quarantine centers. While this is a voluntary effort, you will be compensated for ranges above your current pay salary while performing these duties and return to your normal position and salary once concluded. I just look at this. Work scheduled shifts on a 24/7 basis, 12-hour shift with 4 days or 3 days off, and then 3 days on or 4 days on. I don't think that's okay. And this is from Ohio and Delaware. I had a whole bunch of these, but I just figured these were important because it says military experience required, which I'm sure you have your feelings about.
Hi, Amy.
So here's some
Hi.
baloney.
I'm Deputy Everhart
Enjoy.
with the Sheriff's Department. So, are you aware that we're in a stay-at-home order right now?
Yeah, obviously.
By the government?
Yes,
of
I am
Wisconsin?
aware.
Okay, you're aware of that?
I am aware.
So I don't need to explain that to you?
No, you don't need to explain
Okay,
that to
I
me.
can if you need me to.
Go. You can because your officer was just here 2 weeks ago,
Okay, do you need me to
and
explain
he
it to you or
explained
no?
it to me that you guys weren't enforcing that order.
Oh, we're about to.
Okay.
So you understand it, though?
Okay, so why are you here?
Because your daughter is going to play at other people's home, and you're allowing it to happen.
They were over here as well. So
Okay.
are you
And
here?
they've been talked to
Okay.
about it. So
No,
now
I
I'm talking to
understand.
you,
Okay,
and so either you can acknowledge it or you can argue.
I'm
it.
acknowledging it.
Okay, stop having your kid go by other people's home.
Okay, I acknowledged it. Anything else?
Nope, that was it. Apparently, there was some other
I
issue
acknowledged it.
before
I acknowledged
Okay,
it.
Good.
Anything
Thank you.
else?
Yeah, I need your last name. Amy, what's your last name?
I'm not. Is there a reason you're asking for
I'm
it?
adding you to the screen so we can document that we had contact with you.
Is there a reason for it?
Yep, because you're
That's what I-
violating a
that's what
state
I'm
order,
talking
which
about.
is a.
If you let me finish, that's what I'm explaining to you. Because you're violating an order,
I
We're
haven't
gonna-
violated an order.
we're going to have documentation in our screen with your name because we're here talking to you about that you said you just acknowledged.
Okay.
So then there's documentation.
I would like to
of
see
who
the
we
law
spoke
that
to.
requires me to give you that information.
Thank you.
Because I haven't,
What is your middle initial?
I don't believe that I'm required to give that to you. Are
Away
we
from the
done
house.
here?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Your middle initial and your last name.
I'm not giving it to you. I haven't done anything wrong.
Okay.
I already
Perfect.
got it.
We got it.
Okay.
And that'll be documented too that you're uncooperative.
Okay.
I love when people realize they have rights. All right, so I actually mirrored a video talking about how people are trying to steal your kids and to protect your kids. So here is, and I thought it was really well done.
We've all heard crazy state worshippers say things like, kids don't belong to their parents.
So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
Now that would be fine if they stayed in their homes with their crazy beliefs and left us alone, but of course they don't do that. They are intent on administering a reality that corresponds with their beliefs upon the rest of us, particularly if they can do so under the guise of public health. And so, as we've seen rhetoric emerge from central UN, World Health Organization authorities about the need to enter into people's homes and take people from their families.
Due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
A pretty stunning statement, but again, wouldn't be a big deal if this guy would just sit in his office in the UN and leave everyone else alone. We could just make fun of him. Unfortunately, there are a number of nations, states, municipalities, goes down the wherever people can get away with it, that are executing on the agenda that jerks like this are broadcasting. And so people were stunned to hear similar statements echoing from health officials in the days after this guy from Ventura, California.
We also realize that as we find more contacts, some of the people we find are going to have trouble being isolated. For instance, if they live in a home where there's only one bathroom and there are 3 or 4 other people living there, and those people don't have COVID infection, we're not going to be able to keep the person in that home. Every person who we're isolating, for instance, needs to have their own bathroom. And so we'll be moving people like this into other kinds of housing that we have available. They'll also have other needs, perhaps, food, whatever it's going to be. The county will be there to back them up and to support them.
And also from Broward County, Florida.
We have to go into family homes, like in some of these, when we're going into some of these homes, and we have to separate an individual to isolate them. They need, we need to make sure that they get care, that they have food, that they have support to be isolated from their home or their family for that 14-day period.
Now, you may have noticed that both of these officials were kind of stumbling through their language there, and in fact, they both used an identical example that some of these isolated individuals, maybe they could use some other help like food, just for example. They both used that same word exactly because, ladies and gentlemen, they are reading from the same script that contains talking points from the World Health Organization, and then it's broadcast out to these municipal people to be read out to start to normalize the total top-down control that is currently being implemented under the guise of public health. And while Ventura County did have to walk down, have to clarify some of those claims the next couple days when people said, "You're out of your mind, you're not coming anywhere near my house or my children." So they did have to issue a clarification statement about that. But it doesn't really matter because the whole agenda continues to roll forward. The CDC in the days thereafter still issued new training materials which indicated the same thing, that individuals, especially children, would need to be quarantined away from their parents in the event that someone was diagnosed positive with some of those faulty tests. And still, yet even more, when the state of Washington started hiring daycare workers, started posting ads, you see down here, for people to come take care of children who are COVID positive or who are exposed to COVID-19, which means their parents were exposed, and so now we've taken them as the CDC is recommending. So ladies and gentlemen, as it feels like things are calming down, like we're moving the right way directionally, the fear is subsiding, why is this still rolling out right now where we're still hiring people to be watching children who are being quarantined away from their parents, where the CDC is still issuing fresh guidance about this? What has to happen for these preparations to make sense? It caught my eye when Fauci and Rand Paul were talking about reopening, and Fauci made some interesting statements.
We don't know everything about this virus, and we really better be very careful, particularly when it comes to children.
Was that a threat?
Because the more and more we learn, we're seeing things about what this virus can do that we didn't see from the studies in China or in Europe. For example, right now, children presenting with COVID-19 who actually have a very strange inflammatory syndrome, very similar to Kawasaki's syndrome. I think we better be careful if we are not cavalier in thinking that children are completely immune to the deleterious effects.
Now, whether Fauci is actually suggesting that there will be a second recurrence, pandemic 2, as Bill Gates calls it openly, that will affect children in a disproportionately severe way, that would actually necessitate separating them from their parents. Some of the language we've read today would no longer seem as extreme. We can leave that in the realm of high-octane speculation. We can't really say what they have in store for us. I don't even know that they need a biological agent to achieve that kind of thing. We've seen pretty clearly at this point that all the nanny state needs to take total control is to brainwash their cult of fear, and that's just completely effective. It's stunning. It's disappointing. But one thing we can say is that it would not be the first time that the state has abused its ability to take children from their parents, especially in the context of eliminating political dissidents. In fact, in the Argentinian Dirty War, there were hundreds of children that were taken from the opposition leaders in order to silence them, to get them to stop fighting the government. It's the fastest, one of the most effective ways to silence your political opposition. Either kill them off or take their children. These are the things that hopefully we will never see any of that in the United States. Oh, actually, it's already happened. Governor Kate Brown from Oregon wasted no time in enlisting the support of CPS, Child Protective Services, to help send a strong message to the salon owner who opened her business just last week. When she opened up, her kids were met with a CPS worker in their home who separated the children from their parents and then proceeded to interrogate them. This is a nightmare for any parent, to have the state come and forcibly take someone's child and talk to them without your knowledge. This is disgusting. Governor Brown needs to be removed. So does Inslee. So does Newsom. So does Cuomo. All of these people are absolutely openly tyrants at this point, and we cannot tolerate this, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of this has already been talked about out there, but if, by virtue of this video, there is any child who was kept out of the hands of the state and with their parents where they need to be, then it's absolutely worth having this conversation today. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not like the way that these signs indicate we're going. And that's why we had to talk about it today. Thanks for watching. Please spread the word. If your friends or parents are in, especially one of these states with a very blue governor who seems to be yielding completely to the demands of the totalitarian technocrats, be warned.
So here we go with the World Health Organization guidelines for sexual education recommended that children 0 through 4 be taught about masturbation and gender identity. If you have not, I strongly suggest that you look up these guidelines. And I think it's around page like 41 or something in the 40s where they start breaking it down per age. And I was blown away. I am an educator and I was blown away by what they think is age appropriate. I do not agree with most of it being age appropriate for any of the ages. Here's a hopefully not repetitive video clip for you.
To become a case is someone who's been a significant contact of another case. And at the moment, in most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner. So that's what I was saying previously about the transition from movement restrictions and shutdowns and stay-at-home orders can only be made if we have in place the means to be able to detect suspect cases, isolate suspect confirmed cases.
Last I made in 1940, helped by my sister. We as children spoke from here at Windsor to children who had been evacuated from their homes and sent away for their own safety. Today, once again, many will feel a painful sense of separation from their loved ones. But now as then, we know deep down that it is the right thing to do. While we have faced challenges before, this one is different. This time we join with all nations across the globe in a common endeavor, using the great advances of science and our instinctive compassion to heal. We will succeed, and that success will belong to every one of us. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
So I hope you found that interesting, even though you saw the first part a little bit, I think, in the guy's video that I mirrored, but I thought the part with the Queen was especially something else. So here we have a meme. Let me get this straight. There are automated contact tracking apps for COVID-19 that are backed by national governments, but none for pedophiles and rapists. And I mean, obviously, because they're pedophiles and rapists, right? So to highlight this, I found an article recently from the UN saying how they have covered up raping children in their ranks. And I find this a little bit interesting because it's like the highest criticism of Catholic churches, especially, are the fact that they allow abuse of children and they kind of just like move priests and whoever else in their ranks around to different ranks and just to like hide what they did instead of like getting rid of them. And the language that they use is really interesting because it's just like, oh, we want to dramatically improve the situation, but let's not like make efforts to wipe it out and make sure it never happens, or strict punishments or anything. How are you going to improve it? What exactly are you going to do to dramatically improve the situation? I just don't see how that's going to help. So while I am scrolling through the article here, I do have the link in the description and you can read it yourself and come to your own conclusions. So I just think it's a little bit funny how they censor everything that could be a CT, but can't get rid of any of the other stuff. It's not right. So I have a video coming up right now, and it is kind of disturbing. As a parent especially, I found it upsetting. It's not like graphic violence or anything necessarily, it's just the situation itself is graphic. It was a lady who had a child that got arrested for protesting and not giving her identification. There are other videos of her showing a little bit more of the background, but I just find this interesting, so I wanted to highlight it and send it off to you.
Why is she under arrest? You need to get. Why is she under arrest? Can you grab Victor? Can you grab Victor, please, immediately? Why is she under arrest? Why is she under arrest? Why is she under arrest? Why? Why is she under arrest? Why is she under arrest? Why is she under Prove it. Prove why she's under arrest. Stop. Prove why she's under arrest. Where is the order? You are not going to order. Victor! 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 Why is she under arrest?
Everyone you choose her. You choose her out of everyone. You choose her out of everyone. You choose her.
I'm passing that to her. Why?
She's got a baby. She's got a fucking baby. You ain't touch the baby. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. What are you proving, you fucking scumbag? What are you proving? You don't care. Out of everybody, they've got a woman with a child. Out of everybody, this is fucking shit. This is shit. Out of everybody, they've got a woman.
She's not done anything wrong. She's not done anything wrong.
Come on, be reasonable.
Come on. Let her go. She's done nothing wrong. What has she done?
Look what you're doing, man.
What has she done? What has she done?
Calm down. Calm down.
You are not. No, I'm not. What's that ground? What's that ground? I have nothing to say. You're scaring my son.
What offense has she
Move away
done?
from me and my son. Move away.
What has she done?
Me and my son.
She hasn't done anything.
I shall fucking go.
No yelling, no yelling.
I don't know his son. That is his mother. He needs to be with his mother.
Come on.
I
just stay back. I'm listening to you.
My goodness.
I'm going to get a fucking baby from your mother. Give me the kid. Give me the kid. Give me the kid. Give me the kid, please. You'll feel safer with me. Can I just have the kid?
Kid is not going to feel safer with
Give
the
the kid to somebody, please.
No.
Let's give it to somebody.
Look, we can't just give it to any random
Look
people.
what this represents to the child. You've taken his child.
Yes, he'll be coming back with us.
This is what you signed up for? Come on, guys.
So again, I'm really sorry if that disturbed anybody, but I felt it's something that everyone should watch. So I love this meme. Who am I to judge? Also me, very judgy right there. So bottom line to me is take care of your kids and make sure that you're paying attention to what's being passed and what's going on as far as what they expect to see for when kids go back to school, just like general laws that they're doing, and job listings apparently that they're going to be posting, because I've looked for my state and a couple other states, and there are a lot of contract jobs right now going through the government, and a couple, especially like I showed you with the Washington state, especially where they're talking about having emergency centers for children. So I would just periodically suggest that you look up government jobs and type in COVID-19 in the search bar just to see what they have. Do keep in mind that FEMA camps are a real thing, so I'm not sure if that's where they're going to be taking the kids or not, but if schools aren't going back in session, that's a prime place to store kids. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video and learned something. Like and subscribe for more. I'm going to be posting more probably later today. See ya.